Hi! So I just got back from watching Star Wars for the second time, so that's why this video is a little late. You also might notice that I'm in a different place. I'm home for Christmas break at my dad's house. Hi Dad, I'm filming.
Caitlin! Awesome!
Last week I tried guessing what would happen in Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald by analyzing what could be foreshadowing. This week I wanted to analyze something that's already come out, so I decided to analyze Star Wars: The Last Jedi. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't watched the movie yet, go and watch it and then come back and watch this video. Real quick, the story behind this movie analysis idea is that when I was in high school, I really wanted to write a literary analysis on like a popular book, like The Hunger Games. I never got to do that because we always had to choose a book from a list, but as I started this YouTube channel, I thought, why not do the same thing with a movie? So here goes. One of the things that I really like about Star Wars in general is that it shows the ability that people have for change. Instead of the good guy always being good and the bad guy always being bad, they show some ambivalence, which is the state of having mixed feelings or contradictory ideas about something or someone. There's Han Solo, who's a scoundrel and starts out as a smuggler, but then he ends up being a hero. There's Anakin Skywalker, who starts out so good, but then becomes Darth Vader, and then he has a change of heart at the end of his life. And then there's Luke Skywalker, who despite following a very similar path to his father, he ends up choosing the light and essentially saving everyone. I continue to see this in The Last Jedi too, so this is what I wanted to talk about today. A few key terms. A dynamic character is someone who grows or changes throughout the storyline, and a static character is someone who doesn't undergo such change. So, here's my analysis of some of the main characters. I think the character who exhibits the most dynamic characterization in the movie would be Finn. It's very simple. At the beginning, he decides to run away in an attempt to save himself and Rey. Rose even calls him a selfish traitor. But after everything he goes through in the movie, he almost gives up his own life in an attempt to save the rebellion. So we can see that his character grew a lot through the course of the movie. Luke Skywalker's character was very interesting because throughout most of the movie, he was actually a pretty static character. He had shut himself off from the Force, and he was hiding from everyone. He had no interest in helping Rey understand the Force or helping her with the rebellion. He's ultimately living in a state consumed by his own failure and the legacy of failure that he sees from the rest of the Jedi before him. It's also interesting because his character at this point has come about because of his impulsive, non-heroic move to almost kill Ben Solo. Even when Rey left, I was a little disappointed with his characterization. However, after Yoda's Force Ghost appears and tells him the greatest teacher failure is, he shows growth through his final act of heroism as he distracts Kylo Ren and thereby saves the rebellion. And I thought it was cool that after all of that, he exerted all his power and he became one with the Force and died like Yoda, full of peace and purpose. Now I'm going to move on to Rey and Kylo Ren. I thought the connection between the two of them was really cool. In terms of Rey, it gave her support, answers, understanding, and it even placed her in a path of more ambivalence. I actually thought prior to seeing the movie, and up until she was confronted with it in the movie, that Rey would join forces with Kylo Ren. But I'm glad that that didn't happen because it shows that she chose saving her friends' lives and the cause that she believed in, rather than following a course that may have been better for just herself. I do think that much of Rey's growth throughout the movie comes from her beginning to understand the gray area. At first, she says that there's no light left in Kylo Ren, and she feels like she knows everything about him that she needs to know. But as the Force connection between them develops, she begins to understand that there's a conflict in him and that he's not all evil. That's also when she starts calling him Ben instead of Kylo. And she even tells Luke that Ben Solo will return and that he is their last hope. Also, on top of what she learns about Kylo Ren, she learns that Luke Skywalker wasn't perfect either. And so she's beginning to understand what's between it all, the gray area. I also really like the effect that the Force connection had on Kylo Ren. It was great because it showed his conflict and instigated the slight change that happens mid-movie. My favorite part of the movie was definitely when he blindsided Snoke and killed him, and then he and Rey fought side by side in an epic lightsaber battle against Snoke's guards. But then it was also interesting that when Rey didn't join him, he was so quick to go back to his old ways. But I do think that it's still very likely that he and Rey will still join forces in the next movie. Something that I think is symbolic of Kylo Ren's changing is actually his unmasking. Even though it was Snoke who originally asked him to remove his mask, that is when the conflict in him became more concrete. One of the first things after that is he's confronted with killing his mom, and then he doesn't go through with it. And that's also about the same time when the Force connection starts between him and Rey. And so he begins talking to Rey in his unmasked, more vulnerable state. And all of this reflects his attempts to change by killing the past, even though that might not have been the best way to do it. Now we have a bonus. There was a super ironic part that really made me happy. When they shoot at Luke with all they've got, and General Hux says, with verbal irony, "Do you think you got him?" And then in great situational irony, Luke appeared unscathed, and it was hilarious. Now, what does all of this mean? Well, first of all, it means that Star Wars is a really good movie franchise with complex and interesting characters. And second of all, it reflects the ability that all of us have to change in our lives as well. Well, if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like it, then subscribe, and I will post again next Saturday.